Hello, my name is Nataliya Emelina, and I'm delighted to be taking part in the SimSim conference this year, especially from a museum that is now remained open to the public. I'm also happy to share with you all the experiences that the Museum of Music has had throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll also be looking at the situation concerning museums in Russia during lockdown. And so let's start and go back to last year and take a look at some of the most significant events that have had the greatest impact on us. So you see the timeline when we were closed up. So in the late January in Russia last year, we got the first 2 coronavirus cases, and on March the 2nd, Moscow confirms its first cases, and shortly after, on March 17, all the museums were closed. And of course, the Museum of Music closed also. So all the events and projects needed to be kept on ice or moved into the distant work mode. Hopefully, we have electronic workflow that makes easier all the everyday processes. But some, even among large-scale museums, such as the Tretyakov Gallery in Moscow, didn't use the electronic document exchange. They needed to implement it in a very short period. So what exactly happened after the museum was closed to the public? And let's see the next slide. Yeah, so what exactly happened? The front office went completely remote communication by phone, online feedback forms on the website. All verbal and written messages were processed in 24/7 format. Over the next several days, our team with special passes would go to the museum in groups of no more than 3 people and film from 5 to 5 videos per day, so we could post content for our online audiences, as opposed to simply closing the doors and completely falling off the radars. During the lockdown, we got an average of about 500 inquiries per month through the website alone. Especially, everyone was in a state of a constant stress due to the isolation, so our staff had to learn some basic mental health practices to support our audience. And the Museum of Music turned into a family-friendly online hangout. The first wave of the pandemic brought out the creativity of the museum staff. We made 3D panoramic views of the halls, developed virtual tours of our exhibitions, recorded lectures, as well as a lot of other content. We also started launching projects to support people in self-isolation. At this point, the Museum of Music has been closed to the public for 4 months. We were forced to enter emergency mode and had to come up with new forms of museum communication. So we implemented our strategy of openness and transparency, not only by expanding digital access to the museum halls, but also by offering new opportunities for people to learn about the artifacts we have in our storage. So we experienced immediate diversification of communication channels. The museum was using the social and cultural institutions, research organizations, and the business community. Of course, this didn't happen by itself. Remotely, we were working nonstop. So you can see the Google Trends and the interest in every virtual project in Russia. It increased by almost 500% since the beginning of the last year, when the pandemic just was far away from Russia. But then you can see on this statement and around when the museum was closed in March and April, you can see how it started to rise. So the bulk of incoming queries from visitors were comprised of questions about how they could view specific content online rather than about the virus or the pandemic. Thus, the focus of our external communications during the first lockdown became education and enlightenment. Cooperation with both social and mass media played a key role in this. Reports showcasing the museum's permanent exhibitions were broadcast on numerous TV channels, including children's educational channels and channels specializing in arts. This allowed us to offer our viewers both high-quality video and graphic content. A great deal of the footage that we film is still available to the public on the special website resource called Media Library section. Due to the museum's website undergoing numerous content updates nowadays, it is now only available in Russia. However, work is currently underway to create versions of the website in other languages. At the moment, we have 60 videos available. It's lectures, video tours, concerts, everything like that. So as we went about learning how to use new digital platforms, we were surprised to discover a huge interest in the online community in what we had to offer. In addition to offering our own resources, we soon found ourselves needing to use additional media platforms. So the museum could make its content more widely available and able to reach new audiences. So what we did to actually manage to pull off in the short time between March and May 2020 in order to give our digital visitors access to new programs. With a large online portal, it's cultural.rf, which actually conducts live broadcasts of art events throughout the country, as well as the arts streaming projects. For the first time, run streams of guided tours on TikTok as part of the TikTok for Arts projects that has created an audience of more than 85,000 viewers. So we also communicated a lot with the Russian Seasons International Project. We joined forces with them to put on a series of live streams as part of the Stay at Home with the Russian Season projects. We would have been hard-pressed to reach that level of quality content if we had only filmed in the museum. For example, I shall present you now just a very short filming of this, just as an example. It's the logo of the Russian Seasons, which actually has every year in one country. But last year they decided to go online and show different cultural projects. So it's one of our museums of the Russian National Museums of Music. It's the estate of the prominent Russian singer.
Welcome to the Fedor Shalia.
No, sorry. I shall stop this. One example is that the major media service in Russia, like an equivalent of Google, published thematic articles, collections, playlists, long reads at the main Russian language search portal. It offers the most convenient technology platforms for museums to create websites and applications, as well as content for them, such as multimedia tours, online galleries, articles, and so on. Here you can see the information about the online streams for the last year. For the Museum of Music, that's a very impressive number, seeing how prior to the pandemic, online streams happened very rarely, and typically only when we had to have, for example, a remote speaker from another country being distant. In total, between March and December of the last year, various platforms and the website of the National Museum of Music, we held over 150 events, such as excursions, concert lectures, programs, and museum meetups. So this 73 is only concerning educational events and online concerts. So in total, for a year, we had a twice number. So these streams actually for us reached over 1 million views. For us, it's a huge number because we wouldn't even have been able to receive that many visitors in our museums. And throughout the time, we were in self-isolation at our homes with the rare opportunity to go out and get supplies. For example, in Moscow, you're allowed to go outside twice a week with the special passes, as I told before. And at this point, we said to ourselves, all right, it's good that the museum has partners in IT and communications. That's a completely standard practice. But if you're in a situation where online is the only place you can be, the museum needs people to coordinate these activities. I mean, the staff, and not only of our employees really know how to remotely work with shared documents, for example, or how to demonstrate them via video conferencing tools. We had, in Russia, we had some very interesting professional meetings and conferences where there were some lively lateral communication developments. For example, within the ICOM of Russia, there is a digital development board, and they conducted, in partnership with different companies such as Microsoft, they conducted a study of how digital technologies are affecting the work of museum staff. The goal was to find out how museum staff are using digital technologies today and their attitudes toward them. So the findings of the study were presented in the Inter-Museum Festival. This is a huge museum festival in Moscow that was held entirely online for the first time in late May 2020. You can see that the number of respondents, there was a total of 322 various museums, and the sample contained a total of around 1,000 respondents. So you can see the chart of the respondents, their duties, and their duties what is in the museum. So it's a very significant study, as no one has looked at these metrics before when we speak about Russia. Of course, personal data was not shared with the results, and the goal was to develop programs that are as objective as possible. The slide shows the main additional functions of the staff as well as what they do. The largest proportion of staff members are involved in projects and research activities, as you can see, it's on the first line. So the attitude of museum staffers to digital technologies is generally positive in Russia. 90% of people that agree that modern life would be impossible without digital technologies, and a very large number of respondents actually enjoy using them. 9 out of 10 museum staff talked about how technology was useful in their work and how it offered them more ways to do their work. These are issues, however, with reliability and security of digital systems. Here, about half of the respondents expressed concerns about whether or not digital technologies are fit for purpose when it comes to preserving cultural heritage. On the whole, the respondents of the survey are highly loyal to digital technologies. The findings of the study allow us to conclude that there is a consensus among the professional community regarding the digital modernization of the ways in which museums are run. As for the digital competences, in general, museum staff members are fairly good at making digital presentations and working with text editors. But more than anything, 60% want to improve their digital video production skills. 34% of respondents want to get better at digital photography. There are also those who want to get better at working with software tools and different forms of informational security. So it raises the question of the need for the digital curators in museum. Some museums are luckier than others and already have IT departments that perform the functions of a digital curator. Additionally, museums have found it difficult to hire IT experts, according to this study. The majority of surveyed museums admit the need in general for digital curators. The general consensus is that a digital curator should not only be well versed in digital technologies, but also know the basic museum workflow. A new portal has been launched after this survey, offers free professional development courses for museum staff, totally free of charge. It contains courses on digital literacy, how to set up live streams of events, and so on. A whole new digital landscape has emerged, and museum staff often are unable to navigate it. So I'm going to show you the general statistic for the last year. So during the last year, our museum had more time for internal organization, I should say, re-evaluation of goals and reviews of its development strategy. So this year, when the museum reopened in January, we understood what safety measures needed to be taken. The fear that the abundance of new online content would discourage people from visiting the museum in person was proved not to be true. In fact, a lot of people were motivated to visit the museum in person after viewing our online excursion and programs. The number of in-person excursions increased likely because people who had seen our online presentation wanted more detailed information, and it's good information. Russia's museum industry in general has seen a sharp increase in use of multimedia and in expositions to 80% versus 66% 3 years ago. This again begs the question of the competences of museum staff, and there is often a need for tech support when museums make use of digital technologies, as I have mentioned before. This year, we are adopting more hybrid formats, not just online. We had our first professional meeting in May 2021 in celebration of International Museum Day. We held a seminar on the restoration of fabrics for museum staff. A decision was made to hold this event both online and offline in order to increase the total number of participants. The question is, however, if a conference offers online participation, why would anyone come in person if they can just turn on their computer and save themselves the commute? So we decided to issue participation certificates only to those participants who took part in person. In these instances, the in-person participants can also be treated as some kind of an on-site entertainment program. In the end, we got 50 museum staff members participated in person who came in our museum to listen for the seminar, and about 200 watched the program online from their homes and offices. Given the very specific topic of the seminar, that was the restorations of fabrics, this is a very good total number. So between February and July of this year, we still had restrictions in place limiting the number of people in each hall to 50% capacity. In June, we started requesting QR codes to enter events. These codes are actually issued to people who get both vaccines components, and I know that in some countries you got the same situation. This made it more difficult to organize in-person events, and as a lot of people responded very negatively to being unable to attend without a QR code, with many thinking that the measure was imposed by the museums themselves rather than by the local government. So what we are actually having now, we rolled out an online booking system. In a new round of automation, all excursions can now be selected and purchased online through our new booking system. We actually cooperating a lot with tour operators to develop new cultural routes because we got many projects connected with touristic part. In the medium term, we plan to start offering tickets and passes to events only online, only contactless payments and interactive opportunities, along with remote administration and monitoring. In the long term, the Museum of Music plans to continue to move forward towards greater transparency, broader development of digital channels, new sources of income, and most importantly, towards hiring new professionals. Everyone understands that collaboration and cooperation with universities, for example, can allow us to more effectively develop a system of mentorships and internships. In the short term, we can hire promising young specialists who have the competencies we need. Very up-to-date information that this summer, for example, we for the first time didn't hire students majoring in museum studies, but instead hired those completing master's degrees in transmedia studies with a cultural environment. These students both understand and know how to create transmedia projects that are now of a great interest. But unfortunately, they have little to no understanding of how a museum operates. Therefore, the benefit of the internship significantly increases. We at the museum, and as many museums in Russia, try to think out of the box as much as we can and try doing some new projects and implementing new technologies. That's I'm going to stop, and thank you for your attention. And my email is shown. My name is Nataliya Emelina, and I'm happy to represent today to you the information about the Russian National Museum of Music. Bye-bye.